Hi, good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight, and I'm Soraya Mia. Lawyers protest and walk for judicial independence. What's the underlying reason? And Thailand drops foreign tourism pass. That's coming up. The anti-party hopping bill is currently in its final stages of preparation. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob confirms that it will be tabled in July's parliamentary sitting.
Tindakan melompat parti, terutamanya pasca pilihan raya umum ke-14, telah merencatkan proses demokrasi berperlembagaan di Malaysia. Sehubungan dengan itu, rang undang-undang ini adalah mustahak untuk menjamin kestabilan dan integriti politik selepas PRU ke-15.
Previously, the Parliamentary Special Select Committee proposed that the bill be tabled at a one-day sitting in early July. However, the Prime Minister decided there was no need to hold the special sitting. Among the reasons listed was the cost of holding a special sitting, which amounts to more than 1 million ringgit, excluding operational costs. The next parliamentary meeting is scheduled to begin on July 18th.
Senior Minister Datuk Seri Azmin Ali reiterated his commitment to Bersatu. This is after rumours resurfaced that he may follow his former colleague, Datuk Zuraida Kamarudin, in quitting the party. In a statement, the Bersatu Supreme Council members said the ideas and principles of the party are in line with his own. After Zuraida resigned from Bersatu for Parti Bangsa Malaysia PBM, talks about factions within the party erupted. It came to a point when the party president Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin had to deny the rumours that Azmin and Datuk Rashid Hasnon are planning to leave the party in the wake of Zuraida's departure. The youth and women's wings of Parti Perkasa Bumiputra Bersatu must prepare to attract young voters below the age of 30. Deputy President Dato' Amar Douglas Ugah says this group makes up 2/3 of the over 675,000 new voters in Sarawak. He said both wings should come up with programs suited to the interests of young voters and clearly explain the state government's development policies to their members. PBB Secretary General Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalingi clarified that the new youth section would not be a formal wing but would be part of the existing youth wing. The party would come up with programs to absorb this cohort of youths into politics and nurture them to be future leaders. Hundreds of lawyers protested in the Walk for Judicial Independence today, demanding the government to uphold independence of the judicial system. Malaysian Bar Council President Karen Chia says this is crucial to preserve public confidence towards the judiciary.
Members of the Bar, on the 27th of May this year, the Malaysian Bar had an extraordinary general meeting. At the general meeting, we had resolved to condemn the actions and the unprecedented manner in which MACC had publicly announced commencement of investigations against a sitting judge and publicly announcing the name of the judge. We, the Malaysian Bar, view this as an intimidation of the judiciary. Do you agree? Yes. Do you agree? Yes. Any investigations that's going to be carried out on sitting judges must be carried out in a manner which does not erode independence of the judiciary.
Participants of the Padang Merbok Walk also submitted a memorandum to the government. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of Parliament and Law, Datuk Mas Irmiati, said she would hand over the memorandum to the Prime Minister and the Law Minister.
Jadi terima kasih di atas segala kerjasama dan saya mohon maaf di atas segala kesulitan dan kepayahan yang berlaku pada hari ini, dan saya akan serahkan kepada Yang Berhormat Menteri Datuk Seri Dato' Wan Junaidi dan juga Yang Berhormat Perdana Menteri memorandum yang saya terima pada hari ini. Semoga keadilan, kehakiman di negara kita akan terus ditegakkan.
With that out of the way, we want to understand the significance of handing the memorandum to the government. Here to help us understand more about the issue and demands for judicial independence is Bar Council member New Sin Yu.
Any investigation done against a Superior Court judge must go through the procedure that is prescribed by the law. And it must not done in a way where the publicity itself would end up damaging the judiciary. Because as we know it, any publicity against Superior Court judges could end up eroding confidence in the judiciary, especially in a case like this, where the subject matter is so public, the individual is so public. It also asks a number of other things, including that Parliament, as well as the executive, take steps to ensure that the judiciary is not interfered with.
How can a public announcement to investigate a sitting judge erode public confidence?
What had happened here is that you have MACC, an organ of the executive, and as we all know it, the executive is the only branch of government that has the power to take coercive actions. And what I mean by that is that they have the power of, like we saw today, deploying the police. They have the power of ordering MACC to investigate against judges. They have the power of arresting anyone which they suspect have committed a crime, whether or not that is indeed the case. So it's a very powerful organ. It's a very powerful branch of government. And if you have the judiciary being intimidated the way which they are currently being intimidated, then public confidence in the judiciary will be undermined, because those who come before the court, they will be wondering whether or not the judges are actually impartial when it comes to, especially in cases against the government, because could these judges end up ruling in favor of the government because they're afraid of any repercussion that may happen.
We'll go for a quick break. Stay with us.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita. Niaga AWANI dan Unified Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unified Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unified Business.
Welcome back. The pandemic has highlighted many shortcomings in the education sector. University of Wollongong Vice Chancellor and President, Professor Patricia Davidson, says it is time for universities and other educational institutions to invest and make full use of technology post-COVID-19.
Universities throughout the world, we've been saved by technology and also the adaptability of our staff and students. So one of the really interesting things about our global campuses at UOW is the pandemic has actually brought us closer. Because I can remember just not that long ago, you know, to be able to organise a teleconference, you had to go and get special permission because it would cost a lot of money. Now anybody can... Anyone can set up a Zoom meeting. So we've had many more collaborations across our campuses. We're all at an inflection point in history. You know, hopefully we're all coming through this terrible time of loss and suffering. And I think it's time to now think, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well, and what do we build on to future-proof not just the education sector, but society. And I think technology is going to be part of that.
On the foreign front, the UK has approved the extradition of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to the United States to face criminal charges. Assange, who is wanted by US authorities on 18 counts, including spying charges, has 14 days to appeal. The US has been seeking to put Assange on trial since his website in 2010 published a series of confidential military records and diplomatic cables. He has been in prison in London after he was removed from the Ecuadorian embassy in 2019, where he was seeking asylum. Assange's legal team claimed that classified documents published by WikiLeaks, which related to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, exposed U.S. wrongdoing and were in the public interest. Washington claimed the leak had put lives in danger.
Also concurrently in the Spiegel, 17 pages.
From July 1st, travelers entering Thailand will no longer be required to apply for a visitor pass or purchase travel insurance to enter the country. Thailand is expected to lift most of its COVID restrictions soon to allow full-scale resumption of businesses and other activities.
However, travelers will still need to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test result. Such proof will be inspected by airline staff before departure. Meanwhile, the government also said the use of face masks outdoors would be made voluntary. For indoor environments, masks will continue to be required. Officials are expected to conclude details to allow a nationwide green zone from July 1st, where all businesses and other activities could resume.
Over in India, protests against a new military recruitment policy turned violent as demonstrators threw stones at police and set fire to train coaches today. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that the government is looking to bring down the average age of recruits and reduce pension expenditure, triggering protests around the country. Thousands of angry youths took to the streets to protest the announcement. Most of them were in the eastern Bihar state and Rajasthan in the west, which are key recruitment regions for the army. Under the new scheme, the military aims to bring in more people on short 4-year contracts to lower the average age of personnel. But many potential recruits object, saying that they should be allowed to serve longer than 4 years. Soldiers have previously been recruited by the Army, Navy and Air Force separately and typically serve for up to 17 years for the lowest ranks. Opposition parties and some members of Modi's ruling government say the system will lead to more unemployment in the country grappling with joblessness. In response to protests, the government on Thursday announced a one-time waiver for the 2022 recruitment cycle to raise the upper age limit to 23 years old instead of 21 years old. In other news, the European Commission has recommended Ukraine be granted candidate status, a first step on the long road towards EU membership for the war-torn country. The same status has been given to Moldova, but not Georgia, another ex-Soviet republic. There's one condition in return, says the European Commission. Ukraine must carry out certain reforms and respect international law. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, in her speech, said Ukrainians were ready to die for the European dream. She added that Ukraine had the right to determine its own future, adding new members require unanimous approval from all 27 EU member nations.
Recommends to the Council, first, that Ukraine is given European perspective.
Meanwhile, Japan's Supreme Court has ruled that the government is not responsible for damages in cases whose lives were seriously affected by the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. Some 3,700 Fukushima residents has filed a suit against the government over the disaster. The ruling effectively absolves the state of responsibility for mass evacuations in the crisis.
A massive tsunami set off by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake on March 11, 2011 struck the Fukushima Daiichi power plant, causing the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl and forcing hundreds of thousands from their homes. Plaintiffs had demanded damages from both the country and plant operator, Tokyo Electric Power Company or TEPCO, in several class action lawsuits. In March, the Supreme Court upheld an order for TEPCO to pay damages of $10.5 billion to about 3,700 people. Around 30 other similar lawsuits are pending across the country.
Our coral reefs are some of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet, but they are under imminent threat. Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests if there is time and will to turn the tide through conservation and restoration. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Thank you for watching. My name is Soraya Mia, and we'll see you again next week.